After being taken in, I've finally woken up. Mr. Akay. Little Weaver, Little Black Ears, be careful. Those two are no longer human. We've come all the way here to be united forever. It's such a pity that we can't be together. Page 136. The unidentified Sergal looks upon the two Tilixian latched Sergals, still emerging from the Hizomi non-bond sacs, and comments that once an Eltis has been taken in completely by a Tilixian creature, they are beyond any help. However, their thought is cut off as the two emerging tribesmen begin to speak. Little Blackears mentions that they have finally awoke, unbeknownst to the others. They are actually referring to awakening within the other world, which belongs to the Tilixian entity. Meanwhile, Little Weaver calls out towards Ikei in a dazed voice, as if yearning for him to join them. Ikei calls to his friends with a heartbreaking shout, seemingly unable to accept their situation. The unnamed Sergal informs Ikei that his friends have lost all shreds of their former selves. The two emerged Sergals then begin to speak in unison, evoking a sentiment of shame and regrets, that after all they have been through, and where they have ended up, they could not be together in the end. Meanwhile, at the back of the fray, the collapsed housepecker lets out a horrible belching noise. It then vomits out the inner tentacles through its maw, causing the nameless Sergal to take a sharp notice of it. Quick! Grab my hand! Zin! Page 137. After the housepecker's throes, it continues to vomit up a sludgy concoction of unknown composition. The slimy substance gushes outwards from its mouth, making a series of wet, sludgy sounds. As the monster's inner contents finally spill down and onto the ground, it suddenly begins to froth and bubble up, expanding violently outward and in various directions. Acting quickly, given that they've noticed the creature's erratic and odd behavior earlier, the unidentified Sergal quickly reaches out towards Ikei and urges him to grab their hand. Then they yell out for their companion, Zin. As soon as the two establish a firm grip between each other, Zin comes dashing past them. The unnamed Sergal, acting quick, grabs a hold on one of the Associator wing blade limbs. Thus, they are pulled from the fray by the sheer strength of the wolf alone. Don't go! Mr. Akei, this is such a nice world. We regret that you are not here to enjoy it with us. Ah! Page 138. As the two survivors are being tugged away, their former friends join in the chase in what appears to be a massive, rapidly expanding, fleshy conglomerate. Little Blackears and Little Weaver both shout in unison after Ikei, urging him to reconsider joining them in this glorious new world. Mere moments later, the fleshy masses surround Little Blackears and Little Weaver, carrying them closer and closer to Ikei, and splintering apart to rapidly form reaching tentacles. The appendages branch out separately, some of which form into arms and hands in order to attempt to grasp at Ikei. The two former Eltis state that Ikei's reluctance to join them is a shame and insist that he join them. Unable to do much but scream, Ikei is still holding on to the unknown Sergal's hand, all while keeping Fuzzball safely in his grasp. It's all Father's fault. If we had never went on such a dangerous journey, the four of us, we could have all lived forever in our small house. You said, I want to help people. But what about us, Father? You never helped us at all. Page 139. As the ever-so-looming hands draw close enough for them to grasp and make physical contact with Ikei, the boy recoils and begins to experience flashbacks. He expresses a deep amount of internal anger, aimed towards his father. Ikei places the blame solely on his parent, musing that if they had all just stayed home and did not embark on such an altruistic and philanthropic endeavor, they could have perhaps lived the rest of their lives in the safety of their small house, together as a family. All the while, Ikei sees a vision of his former home, where his mother and past life were left behind in the past. The young Agunder reaches out towards it and falls to his knees. Ike reflects on his father's words. I want to help people, parroting them out in bitter frustration. Reflecting on the current situation, he lets out a cry of despair. It appears that within this vision-like state, the malformed hands and grasping appendages from before have taken up the shape of his fallen comrades, all coming together to embrace him from behind. Do not protect me! I'm so useless! I hate myself. But everyone here, I don't really care about that anymore. I'm just like my father. I hate... Page 140. As Ike is overwhelmed with deep thoughts of self-resentment, he slaps away the comforting hands of his fallen comrades, demanding that they stop their favorable view and supportive stance on him. Ike goes on to say that he is ultimately just like his father, useless and unable to help any of the people he cares and loves for. Little Blackears and Little Weaver are shocked and surprised after hearing Ike's dismissal outlook of himself. The fallen comrades attempt to console Ike, stating that everyone there present within the Talixian realm still loves him. However, they are unable to complete their sentence, as Ike abruptly interrupts them all. Dejected and with his head held down, the Agunder boy states that he simply does not care about any of that sentimentality any longer, and begins to walk outwards into the darkness. Peck! Big brother, don't look back. Over there. Back when I picked up that red fruit, I let the person know my true wish, to smell the sun and the soil again. And my brother, dad, and me, we all live in peace and happiness. The person then came and took my red fruit and gave me this instead. This can slightly change the fate of people's lives. The future we didn't choose, a broken branch. Sorry, but the buds will be born and grow on my brother, Fuzzball, and the lady as well. Page 141. As Ike continues his voyage through the depths of the darkness and emotional turmoil, he finds himself calling out for Peck. The voice of Peck resonates as Ike is on the verge of tears. The lost brother pleads with his elder sibling not to turn back, and instead offers a new pathway. A stream of solid matter converges and forms a pathway before Ike. His brother Peck explains that, a while back, he ran across a very pretty berry-like fruit. Going against his brother's advice, he secretly picked it up and kept the tempting orb. Peck made a wish, stemming from deep within himself and his inner truth. He could once more be among his family, living in harmony, and be able to smell the warm sun and fertile soil again. As Ike stumbles before the outreaching path, Peck continues to explain that the person took away the red fruit and gave him something in exchange. A vision of Peck with an outstretched hand is shown to the viewer. Within his palm lies a Talixian jewel, which he explains is capable of altering one's fate ever so slightly, but enough. Peck goes on to explain and express his regret at his inability to help people in the future they have chosen. However, new buds will grow on each and every one of their destinies, including their newfound companion, to which he refers to as the lady. As Peck's hand reaches out with its Talixian jewel, it blooms and spreads out multiple pathways into the darkness. The road is... A tree is growing from the housepecker's body. Page 142. Ike looks over yonder and notices the road within the spiritual realm is being constricted before his very eyes. Meanwhile, back within base reality, the housepecker body begins to transform as something begins to break out of its crust, erupting violently upwards towards the sky. The unnamed Sergal, still latching onto Zin's shoulder and being hauled away to safety, along with the others, calls out about this strange phenomenon. The root-like amalgam on Ike's former companions continue to give chase, only seemingly to stop and fall limp. The overgrowth of the roots spurting out from the housepecker's body's crust now make up a massive, tall structure. The root-like amalgam of Ikei's former companions continue to give chase, only to seemingly stop and fall limp. The overgrowth of the roots sprouting from the housepecker's body crusts now make up a massive, tall structure. Our protagonists have reached what appears to be a stop in their daring escape. Things seem to now appear safe. However, are things truly alright? The Hexnose Forest and Peck's Tree are melding together. Page 143. Ikei and the unknown Sergal stare upwards at the tree growing from the housepecker's body as it casts a shadow, towering all the way towards the canopy of the forest itself. Ikei remarks that the tree itself is starting to blend in and become one with the Hexnose Forest itself. The branches are peppered with buds, which all begin to bloom and blossom, spreading outward, shining dust-like powder, which rustles outward into the wind. A garbage foam came out of the housepecker. Zin, do you understand what this means? Page 144. The strewn-out amalgam of corpses from the former tribesmen stare out blankly, eyes fixated upon nothing. Ikei is on his knees and rearing closer to them, still somewhat curious as to what exactly has transpired with them. The unknown Sergal quietly looms behind him. Suddenly, a rustle is heard and something creeps out from within the housepecker's corpse. A garbage foam rushes outward, but the unnamed Sergal notices immediately and begins to dash after it, weapon at the ready. Acting swiftly, the Sergal manages to catch and slay the creature in one swoop, hewing the meat upon her bladed stave. She then takes the remains over to her faithful companions in and asks if they understand what it was trying to do. Oh yeah, I have this wolf horn stamp seal. A shaman entrusted my mother with this. Ah, that is, guided by this you came here. Page 145. Zin's focus turns from the Sergal and rears around Ikei, staring intently at his backpack. Ikei takes his backpack off in order to rummage through and pull something out. The object he is holding is none other than the wolf horn stamp seal. Ikei explains that it has been in his possession all this time, and that his mother had received it from a shaman prior. This revelation surprises the Sergal, which prompts her to firmly assert that it is, in fact, what guided and led Ikei here. This has changed our fates? It is a very important thing. It is a memory of us humans. It is clear to me the monsters of the forest are attracted to us. They come to rob us. I wonder, the precious things they robbed from us, what would that sacrifice mean to us? Under the dark ground, there is a muddy, whirling, stagnant, and unidentifiable thing. It's attempting and dreaming something on a large scale. Yeah, we may all be part of the dream. Only two of us are left, like phantoms. And I feel like that dream is creating this forest. My little brother even turned into a tree to help us. Page 146. Ikei, with his hand still holding onto the wolf steel samp, inquires about it towards the unnamed Sergal. Could such a thing hold the power to shape or alter their fates? The unnamed Sergal peers at Ikei and motions that the seal is a very important thing, a memory of humans. While the malformed and twisted remains in the shape of Ikei's former comrades lay splayed out of the housepecker in the background, the unknown Sergal begins to point out that the monsters within the forest are clearly drawn to them, with a singular purpose in mind. That is, of course, to slaughter and rob them of what they hold most dear. Ikei responds with a tear in his eye, whilst clutching Fuzzball gently in his arms, questioning the weight behind their losses incurred, as well as the meaning of their overall sacrifices endured that ended up to this point. The unnamed Sergal continues her musings, whilst Zen lays behind her, attentive, describing an unknown force that lay deep within the underground. It constantly writhes, twists and turns in its deep dream state, and that she feels as if that dream is the root cause for the creation of their surroundings and the forest itself. Ik then reaches a potential conclusion that they all must be part of a dream, as only the two of them are left, like phantoms of a former whole, given the nature of events experienced so far, all the way up until his little brother turning into a tree in order to help safeguard them. Thank you for saving us. You are amazing. You were not simply saved by someone. Just the two of you made it here thus far. We did? Yes. You have been striving to survive. That's right. Father. Listen, Ik. We can help save people, and saving people is a monumentally difficult task. Page 147. Morose and stricken with grief in his eyes, Ik looks up from the ground toward the unnamed Sergal, still grasping Fuzzball in his arms and cradling them safely. He mutters thankful words to their savior, to which the unnamed one reacts with almost shock and disbelief at the notion. The Sergal begins to explain to the two that they were in fact survivors. The act of living throughout insurmountable odds and the horrors of the forest for such a long time, on their lonesome, should not be boiled down towards a would-be savior which just happened to be there at the right place and right time. Their own words resonate with Ik, sending him onto a slow realization spiral, causing him to remember the words of his father from once upon a time. Ik's father explained to him that they are all capable of saving people with their works. However, the act of saving people proves to be a monumentally difficult task, due to the underlying risk associated with travel, the Talixian forest, and various dangers surrounding them. I've done everything in my power. That is so. Let's go forward, you and I. Yeah. We were heading for Adzma. I'm probably heading in the same direction. Zim seems to be guiding me on the path towards Adzma. Page 148. Ik comes to the realization that he has done everything humanly possible in his limits after remembering his father's words. The unnamed Sergal firmly acknowledges this and motions that Ik and Little Fuzzball should join them in their travels in order to move forward, both from the current situation and the hardships endured thus far. The Warrior Gunder Boy looks upward. The trees, which once sprouted forth from Peck, now blossom and rustle in full bloom, with the bright powder floating downwards. As Ik extends his hands, staring at the flakes falling down, he remembers and mentions that they were headed towards Adzma's direction. The unnamed Sergal then points toward their destination and states that they're probably headed towards the same place as Ik. Not only that, but the Zin themselves seem to be their guiding compass amidst the entirety of this. Oh, by the way, I still haven't introduced myself. I'm Ik, a son of an artisan, and this is Fuzzball, a lost child of the forests. My mother had not named me, but have you heard the ringing call Zin makes to me? Thus, my name is Rain. It's what Zin gave me. Listen. Page 149. The survivors and their saviors are now making their way through the forest towards hopeful safety, with Zin leading the pack and the rest following suit. Our lonesome Agunda remarks towards the unnamed Sergal that they have not yet introduced themselves. Ik presents himself as the son of an artisan, and Fuzzball as a lost child of the forest, suggesting that the Sergal themselves may have been born within the forest itself, rather than in a village or someplace civilized. Fuzzball lets out a single mew upon hearing their name called out. Ik's words give pause to the unnamed Sergal, stopping them and their Talixian wolf associator briefly. The unnamed Sergal contemplates for a bit, musing to themselves, before turning towards Ik and revealing that they had not been given a name at birth. However, they present a question. The unknown Sergal wonders if Ik has heard the Talixian wolf call out to them. She reveals her namesake as Rain. Her reasoning and motif of bearing this name based upon the ringing noise emanated in between the sounds akin to a chime from the associator when it calls to her. Translator's note: the sound emitted by T-Wolf are similar to that of a tuning fork and ringing, with the elongated vibrato serving as her namesake. Lore supplement: understanding Tlixian wolf associator cries. Tlixian wolves make use of their wings in order to help produce various sounds. They rub them against one another, similar to how bell crickets in real life do. These emit a series of clear, echoing, and beautifully mystic sounds like the examples provided down below, and can inspire and hopefully help the readers imagine. In addition to the fact that the wolves have been worshipped in the northern land since ancient times, these types of sounds have been given spiritual inspiration and influence to many northern folk, similar to how Rain Solves obtained her name from Zen himself. The Japanese spelling of rain is that. This is a term closely associated with the elongated rubato sound that comes straight after the ringing noises are described in the manga. The clear and beautiful sounds can be closely rated to that of a wind chime or bell. When taking into consideration both Japanese and English spellings of their respective onomatopoeias, they both look and sound very similar to one another, as well as in pronunciation. With this page, the origin of Rain's name has been finally revealed, including important facts about Rain. Up first, and perhaps even surprising to most, is that Rain was not given a name upon birth. This is consistent with the general naming culture of Sikh folk in the north. At last, but certainly not least, and maybe the most heavy in terms of importance, is that the name of Rain is based off and originates from one of Zin's noises. The distinct, elongated, ringing rubato sound that echoes out longer than most. One can describe Zin's sound similar to that of a whirring fan noise, small bells, wind chimes, tuning forks, crickets, and so on. Some of these sounds are clear and echoing. This suggests the name Rain can be considered bestowed upon her by Zin via the nature of inspiration. One may even consider Zin as the godfather of Rain herself via this association. The forest is letting us go, while holding tight onto my brother and friends. Page 150. Ike looks back at the forest, growing ever more distant in the horizon. He muses in a rather poetic fashion to himself that the forest has let them go, but not without consequence. The sacrifices their friends made to reach this point, and the horrendous ways they have passed on, has left the group escape bittersweet. Knowing the Plainswalkers have become part of the forest in one way or another can be felt in Ike's expression, thinking of how it is holding tight on his comrades. Fuzzball looks up at their savior as he leads them away with Zin towards a new path. Ike, however, can't help but not continue to look back as they tread onwards. A town? It's the biggest one I've ever seen. Page 151. The group continues their trek along a naturally formed road, leaving a giant fungal-shaped formation behind them in Zin. Eventually, they make their way through a tunnel which leads them away from the forest and towards more safer plains. Dark has settled in, and the group forms a makeshift camp, taking shelter next to a bonfire from the cold. At dawn, they travel through a handful of hills for a while, until in the distance, the first signs of civilization finally reveal themselves. The group lay eyes upon the village of Adsma in the distance, alongside the lake bearing the same name. Rain, in a rather enthusiastic tone and display of bewilderment on her face, remarks that it is the biggest town she has ever seen in her life. Huh, it looks like the miasma still has a hold on Ikei, what with seeing the tendrils turn into former Sergal friends. Okay, so no one here is confused about this jewel thing. Peck made a wish at some point, and the Telexian spirit heard and granted that wish. Kinda. I assume Peck wanted to live too, but a spirit can only change fate so much. The garbage foam, what does it mean? Well, it's clearly alive in a sense, being able to run from its host, but if that's the case, what's it running to? Maybe another monster? It's not really clear one way or the other. And that was the last page, made in 2021. It's been 5 years. So, what's the illustrator of the comic, Mick39, and the writer of the comic, Kiki, up to as of right now? Short answer, I don't know. Long answer, I don't think we're gonna get it because it's been forever ago since we've seen any kind of Sergal lore, either new or old. The new is gone, that's the one I've been talking to you about, and the new one just doesn't exist right now. And I've waited 5 years patiently for that to exist, but it just hasn't come, and if it has, then I can't find it unless it's on, behind a paywall. Which, if that's the case, you can't really blame me for talking about what I did, even if it is just old information. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed what I was talking about here today. I know some people rather not, read it themselves, so I thought it'd be fun for me to read to y'all. But that's really all I had to say for now, so until next time, take care.